Once upon a time, Toronto's Poet Laureate was the amazing George Elliott Clarke. And through his office, or whatever the position is called, members of the League of Canadian Poets were invited to be part of a beat cafe. Mind you, I'd heard of George, of course, for a long time before that. And the one thing, and I tell everybody this, that I love about George is that everybody is welcome at his table. And I'm proud to be one of those people welcomed at your table. And now let other people meet you, and I'll get out of the way. Thank you for listening to me.
What a great pleasure to be here. For crying out loud, Cinco de Mayo, 5th of May, as has already been mentioned, Marx's birthday, and an extremely important date, therefore, for bringing to global consciousness the fact that so many of us are oppressed on the basis of class, economics, and it's a truth that remains true. Despite all of the propaganda of the business class, of the political class, and so on. And I think that days like today, nights like tonight, are extremely important for us all to remember history, which is actually our greatest weapon, in my opinion, against the oppressor, who is always trying to change the history, who's always trying to lie about what happened, about how we have been oppressed, about our struggle for democracy, which still goes on. In fact, when Herbert Hoover was mentioned, not Herbert Hoover, sorry, J. Edgar Hoover, but it could have been Herbert Hoover too, but when J. Edgar Hoover was mentioned earlier this evening, I couldn't help but think, Hoover's really the architect of the mass surveillance state that we are all suffering with now. And a mass surveillance state which also intends to deny us history of revolt and resistance and struggle. I really appreciate the poetry that we've already heard tonight, which tells the story of the people, all of our various peoples in our engagement and struggle for trying to achieve a truly just society, not Plato's fascist tyranny, which I think we really have to understand that's what it was that he was putting forward, but regimes, governments that are for the people, of the people, by the people, where public spending is a good, not a crime. It outrages me that all of these Tories run around crying about we can't have debt, we can't have deficits, we can't spend any money. Public spending is wrong. Public spending is incorrect. I want to tell them, what's the point of a government if it's not going to spend the people's money for the people? It's our money, for crying out loud. If we want to spend it ourselves, we're going to spend it for ourselves. And if you want to be in banking, if you want to be involved in industries of fraud, then go ahead and do that. You shouldn't be in government if you're not willing to spend the people's money on the people. If you don't like it, get out of the way. Get out of the way. Resign, for crying out loud. Or be defeated as fast as possible. This whole mantra about deregulation, about having to balance budgets and so forth is an incredible lie, a huge lie. And I think we have to remember, again, these histories of struggle. I want to come back, I want to go back in time. I want to go back 50 years. I know it's a long time ago, but I was a boy in 1968, 8 years old. But I want to remember some of the events of that year, which I think 1968 was the 1848 of the 20th century. It was the year of near revolution all over the world, where people crying and dreaming of a better society, a freer society everywhere, from the old East Bloc, think of the Prague Spring, for instance, to North America. We can think of the Messianic campaign of Robert Francis Kennedy for the Democratic Party nomination, the anti-war movement, anti-Vietnam War movement, which you should remember succeeded in ending that crime against humanity. We can also, I know it's going to sound weird, but I'm going to throw Trudeau-mania into the mix, because regardless of Pierre Elliott Trudeau and everything that he may have represented or didn't represent, I think English Canadians in particular parked in his campaign of the spring of '68 this dream of greater liberty, more equality, more justice for everybody, independent of him. And that was the way English Canadians tried to participate in the fervor of liberation that really was the spring of 1968. I want to think about May '68 in particular, because there was a near revolution in France. But for a whole month, the people of France basically ignored their government. Proof that anarchy can work. So-called anarchy can work. They basically ignored the government, and the government of France went crazy. They couldn't figure out what to do to try to get people to listen to them again. People went about doing their jobs, going to school as they wished, and changing things up as they wished, without regard for government policies and programs or promises of elections or wage increases and whatnot. It was a great liberating moment, I think, for all of humanity, France, May '68. And I know I've got to remember as well, May 19. May 19 was Malcolm X's birthday. And that's coming up 2 weeks from today. So I just want to throw that out there so that we may keep that in mind. I think of Malcolm X as being one of the greatest theoreticians of revolutionary change and consciousness of the 20th century, and coming specifically from a working class, repressed, marginalized, racialized background, setting a brilliant example for all of us that we can all be organic intellectuals. We do not need degrees, we do not need university programs. What we need to be is well-read. What we need to be is literate. What we need to be is knowledgeable about history in order to put forward the ideas that can shape societies to their foundations. I'm glad that I'm saying this. I'm glad that these words are leaving my mouth right here in a different book list. And I want to challenge everybody, before you leave, throw down some cash, throw down some plastic, and get yourself a book, at least one, before you leave here tonight, and read it, and master it, and use it as a tool, as an instrument for bringing about change. I shouldn't keep talking and lose my time and so on. So I'm going to read from this book, which I hasten to add is for sale right here in a different book list. So this may be one of the books you might be tempted to pick up. Canticles 1, Volume 2, which deals with slavery, the struggle against slavery, imperialism and the struggle against imperialism. I know I've said a lot already and I've ranted already. Perhaps you might think of it as being that or being such, but I want to say that for myself, the history of the last 500 years has been nothing but a history of imperialism and resistance to imperialism, and the imperialism continues and the resistance to it continues. Most importantly. So yeah, a few poems from Canticles 1. Spirituals. So this is my idea of African American spirituals. Very short poem. So if we wanted to date it historically, we'd be talking about the middle of early to middle 19th century. God never say no mumbling word, crying for Christ's cross, his tears thundered. Our good God be a man of war. He perch in heaven and judge all prayer. I hate the cross, that accursed tree. Made our land's blood drip like honey. But ogle Jesus now, scribing poesy, bright sparkle sear the furthest sky, wily as Homer, that reverend bard, gleans soulful sweets from his lyric orchard. Oh, Adam and Eve, like us, be black. They fall down to hell, but Christ hauled him back. Take out your pencil. Pick up the book. These measures save us once damned folk. Whitman compiles his leaves. Yeah, I think I'll read that one. About Walt Whitman. A Yankee bard is a poet and a half. His language is struck, roaring, alive, from anvils of pulpit and press, sermons, newspapers, the forges and forgers of citizens. He must show no little stature. Each page musters flurries of song. He mustn't be a reclusive virtuoso, some clandestine genius. His theme must hit the public hard, ever harder. Anti-slavery is my chosen cross. Slavery is no kindergarten struggle. The American poet cannot encompass it with tent show slogans or Jim Crack rigmarole. He forbids all newsprint malarkey. I am that man. I am that poet. Messianic, no quixotic, I, Whitman, tilt at slavery because I cannot accept to bear the Constitution's stigmata. I have neither a glass eye nor a glass jaw. I have an earthquake laugh, a volcanic heart. I do not arrange garlands of ink. I canvass civic destruction that resembles the late ruction in France. Each brother now beholds the other as a rival to saber through the skull or cannonade slaughter to pieces. The murdering is medieval. Men clout and tear each other tooth and nail, hand over fist, or bow to bullets' nefarious applause. I know what I report, echoing the cannon. I've been a fumbling nurse among the Union's wounded, have waded tides of smoke still swamping battlefields, have seen the earthy lilies that are young corpses, their flagrant disgraced nakedness intrusively gleaming. To Europe's classical farcical bards I say, our Yankee versus rebel war is an ideal tragedy, staging the sour odor of shot down doves, red matted cotton, red splashed sugar. It is dynamite blasts of wounds, each one a ruddy vent. It is fog incarcerated stars. It is unpronounceable amounts of living fluids. It is white trash, yellow-bellied or lily-livered. But I am undismayed. Americans are not drunken Philistines. We are not tarred and feathered outlaws. We are God's republic trying to free even you. I see sable Apollo rising, beaming from snapped chains. I am the verbatim poet. Beauty is quotation. I report the malignant triumphs of battles. I repeat Baptist tambourine bashing hymns. My ink is my supple harmonica. Each poem lilts a fasola liturgy. I'm jotting down the primitive epics of slaves, i.e., our primary color blacks. Yes'm, I approve the styles of vulgar minstrels. Yet, I be as blasphemous as a saint. Messieurs, regard my edgy signature. Wet, it glistens like a guillotine. Blade, gobbling tyrants. On Queen Victoria by Karl Marx. She is not necessarily ugly, nor symbolically loathsome toad-like. Her throne sitting is violently placid. She believes the butchering done in her name must be decorous. In every portrait spy her arms and gnawed wings. She is a black-decked hen, brooding in a nest of nettles, given to furtive fooping of English cocks all crowing, all clucking to swallow more of Africa, more of Asia, more of the Americas, the two Indies, and even more of Europa, more and more and more. Yet behind her decorative patter there's terror, radiant as the sun, that ruddies her global oceanic realm, each bloodbath dawn and each sanguinary dusk. When I see her stooled perennially amid chilly darkness, her skull sloshing with tea and sherry, I see the odalisque of Tennyson, the black widow of yellow sheet bards, hear her umming and erring, her canon of limericks. Is she, perhaps, amiably awful. I see a blackened pale carnation, a lady as cadaverous as a raven. The lady is garbage. She's rotten, not wholesome. Yet she's a succubus less interesting than the mature fly that she resembles, a maggot come into its own. She is really worse than grotesque. She is obsolete. She credits she has a right to sourness, to be transcendently and hungrily carnivorous, to model a genealogy of hemophiliac progeny, to read telegrams whose dotted ellipses trace out snippets of corpses that leak sighs and moans, the orgy of a seance. Doesn't she know, vis-a-vis Albert, that the dead stay dead if never quiet? I spy her obsidian chastity. Her dead husband is a unique eunuch. Her face admits a vampire's surliness. Her empire is canons barking scripture in Gothic lettering, trumpeting petty bourgeois Gotterdammerung, the slippage of mansions into sewers. Yes. Thank you. You've been very patient with me. I'm going to end with one last poem, and so probably something else. Well, actually, no. Let me jump ahead here to the 20th century, Paul Robeson salutes the USSR, 1937. That old man river, bridging Abe Lincoln and Mark Twain. The Mississippi turgidly sluggish with lynchees dissolving flesh, and or perennially ruddy with tobacco juice, sable ichor, and apple brandy, explains why Missouri Tom Elliot implants a garbage-shored Thames in his wasteland. Nothing squeamish about the Dixie Midwest River, confed corpses slopped up there, slampy, befriending fiendishness like the cadavers of Klan pogroms, suddenly revived and crooning in showboat comic guise. America is a star-empty night, and backward, pervert, peevish, can't-do whites, as feudal as Moor's utopia. Leaves of Grass gets inked over as Dante's Inferno. The Yanks are wily brutes, obeisant to the immemorial fraud of their religions, for they think salvation ballyhoos old Mr. Gory gold, not old glory, and credit themselves citizens as august as sugar, but their history is theft. Even if my applause is lonely, I salute the Soviets. They're Caucasians who like to throw off chains and set ballets to the verses of the ingenious Pushkin, Negro. Against the USA's worn-out light, I set the colossal glory of the USSR, where peasants gorge on obese potatoes, icy vodka, while conscientiously murderous generals trust to advance history. Thanks to Lenin, Stalin, workers rusticate in the ancient Senate, that's the tavern, and swallow il vino dei poeti, savoring that favored life. And they give Ku Klux Killer civilian headstones yellow-watered boulders. Impromptu splendor, the USSR. Buttoned-down murderers, the USA. Regard the bug house that is the White House. Mad Dog Roosevelt and his pretty boy clique. It's a feces jungle. Study a warren of hoods, gangsters, FBI spooks, democratic savagery. Survey high crimes from low-down bandits, grimy as Wall Street, slimy as 42nd Street. And I just want to say this was written before Trump. Thank you all so very, very much. All right. Isa has a request. So with your permission, I'm going to read one last poem. Yes. And it's from this book. There is one copy of Volume 1 of Canticles 1 on sale right here tonight in this bookstore. How much is it? Whatever the price is, it's a liberating price. I'm sure it's very reasonable, whatever it might be, extremely reasonable. So damn, that's a good short title, and in fact, I want to say that this poem is also useful as having served to inspire Giovanna's Sorry, which is a much better poem, I don't hesitate to say.
I don't think so.
Oh no, it is. It's a very, very fine poem. But I'm glad that we can put our poems together in this way.
Far.
Thank you. Damnation Litany. And now you are damned, and that is damned, and this is damned, and they are damned. Whoever they are, however virtuous they are, the damned farmer damns stones, for he plows up gravestones, a damnable crop. And the damned wino virgin feels fat snakes plunger her sex shaggy as an unweeded garden. And the damned backward gutter angels imminent, cripples simpering in taverns, drunk all night prettied hours, and drunk every slam down dawn, are damnably teetotally tipsy due to childhoods of collapse and lapses of nerve and or judgment, and their spunking in strumpets lapse. And the fevered romantic poets, damn their lichen of lies, their tubercular odes, their tear street sonnets that don't heal but madden, their twilight tinted ballads that unmask them as being too Frankenstein ugly for amnesty. If their face value is honesty, damnable still is each bombed out mouth, next each smoked out sex. Damn their tombs, cracking open their skulls. Damnable are sleepwalkers among pews. Damnable are shameless sham preachers. Damn disgraceful it is that doves bash against church bells and drop down dead. And damn every slave's blueprinted, fingerprinted ass, and every slave ship's moans venomous molestations, and damn the invaluable redemption of praying rapists. The best slut is damned. Damnable is excavated scum, the gold bits surfed from muck, and bankers unsheathing pitiless daggers. Damnable is the horse dissipated into glue, a slimy skank writhing in the ditch, a man axing her as he likes. Both are damned. Damnable are scholars who vampire their subjects. Damnable are assassins' memoirs. Damned is that taxing load of cranks, the legislature. So was dredged up the Bank of England. So was dug up the Bank of America. Damnable enterprising slavery, luster-destroying slavery, the never-temporary insanity of imperialism, all come to the concussive conclusion, damnation. A stone broken off a cave front, the rupture wounding a messiah sees crimson spilled down. Damnably next, obscene insects cavorting. Damnably, damnable are our sins. Damnable is the long end of the short life. Damnable is that screwdriver twixt your thighs, the dark lead transfixing, poisoning, and damn your shriveled, unshrived lips, and damn your unrefurbished household, and damn your truckling to homicide, and damn your chopped up fingers, and damn your ruinous, murderous wine, and damn your night elongated dawn extinguished lamp, and damn your bad, 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 bad blood, and damn your Atlantic that's shearing, and damn your sea-shade gall-broken shells, and damnable is the shark wolfing down your legs. Damnable are the yellow-toothed Caucasians. Damnable is milk drawn off from maggots. Damnable is whiskey as dull as water. Damnable is a stove used as a confessional. Damnable is the confessional used as a urinal. Damnable are clanging coins, hissing meat. Damnable be the oinking ass and the neighing dog, and damned are rachitic lions, and damnable is a nun's sex tighter than a keyhole, and damn all Puritans who shake, ejaculating, sobbing. Damn the bow lashing a fiddle. Damn the yellow moon that's green cheese and banjo blues. Damn Democrats undone, whimpering. Damn Democrats undone, whimpering. Damnable is the rain's violent sorrow. Damnable is clouded over silver. Damnable is lightning flower from soil. Damnable is the stab wound masquerading as a scratch. Damn the volcanic excrement of tyrants, just what their economies are founded upon. Damn all those confuse the great chain of being with the food chain. Damn all law books unused for heating brothels. Damn saints who die by gallows and not by guillotine. Damn presidential advisors and presidential Jezebels. Damn the aquatic cemetery of the Middle Passage. And damn just your deviant hyacinths just line up and manure the fields. And damn the sabotage of blue stockings, the liquidations of ladies amid pillows. And damn the sweet, digestible turds of politicians. Damnable, their jaws dripping, loathing, their souls all broken up inside. And damn all those politicos who either stand on the Constitution or who hide behind the Bible. Damn all that's abnormally normal, and damn your cavilling genitalia, your brainstorming genitalia, and damn your cavalier caca odor in Parliament. And damn your tongue you cure with leper slice, and damn your unimprovable vocabulary. Damnable is the yellow fever, the black death. Damnable is prevaricating fornicator. Damnable is the Republican, as resolute as quicksand. Damn breath that reeks like the smell of wet paint. Damn all school picnic pedophiles and all fraudsters with delinquent accounts. Damn all juveniles who lack discipline, break out the damned belt and use it. And damn executioners who like their prey, cornered and castrated and killed, like that dog Caesar and that canine Richard III. Damned are slavery's pallid brats and freckled bastards, and damn old joking, quaking, back-breaking bitches, and damn daylight that itches and burns like acid, and and damn all insatiable goblet-smashing widows, damn poets whom Lorca-like end in a ditch, or whom like Rilke end in a rose garden, or whom like Pound end in a gondola, or whom like Yeats end up a senator. Damnable is the insolent obscenity of the Poet Laureate. Damned is his semi-arousal due to Sicilian Marcella. Damnable is the rat's tongue in his scorpion's jaw. Damnable are his sermons impotent as grunts. Let him cough up black tar and green mucus, unhealthy bits of hair, dust, shit. His epic is more broken than most. He's uncomfortable with damnation, but not unfamiliar with the deed. His prominent exhaustion damns him. His overabundant laughter damns him. His somber whining is self-damning. Damn the prison of the poem. Damn a smoky penis's imprecise negritude. Damn the raving tunes of the insidious versifier. Damn the uninhibited exhibitionist poet. Damn luminous Venus, false-faced muse. Damn the minor bards wheezing. Damn the poetaster setting language askew. Damn the tidal wave meter of mystics. Damn this epic jotted out of ink and bile. Damn the unprofitable mishmash of voices. Damn fresh silence with its black tatters. Damn every sullen phrase of my glittering voice. Oh my God.